All right. So as we talked about on the top of the show, this week's Lions discussion is going to revolve around the hiring of new head coach Dan Campbell and new general manager Brad Holmes. Brad Sherlock Holmes, as Matt Derry of the Locked On Lions podcast refers as him too.
Some great nicknames for the two of them coming out of these last couple of weeks.
I see you're pretty hot on Metallica Dan.
I love that one.
I'm more of a fan of the Danimal.
Danimal's good. Motor City Dan.
I like Motor City
that
Dan.
one.
Yeah. So just right off the top, I think his press conference is a meme at this point.
Talking about Dan Campbell's opening press conference.
Yeah.
I liked it for probably about 2 minutes and then got really sick of it.
It is such a stark contrast compared to Matt Patricia.
You think so?
Yeah. Not only him, just the energy of them.
The both. Energy and everything completely different. What he was saying was similar.
Sure.
It was, we need to go to work. We need to grab our lunch pail. We need to pull up our bootstraps.
That's the Motor City,
exactly.
Way
it's coach talk and coach speak, and that's why I didn't like it after 2 minutes, because we've heard it before, we've heard it numerous times. The energy though, fantastic. That.
The thing that I like the most that I've heard from both of these guys to begin with, and I think this is kind of a divisive direction that the franchise is going, but I like the fact that they're talking about how much of a collaborative effort this new regime is, whereas the last regime was Bob, I'm the smartest man in the room, Quinn, and Matt, I'm not going to adjust my defense. I coached a Super Bowl winning defense, Patricia.
Yeah.
So these two guys who were total blowhards and will not change their way of thinking at all, whereas the new guys seem very open to outside opinion and getting the opinion of their whole staff and of Chris Spielman and people who have been in the NFL. Like they hired a staff around them that is full of experienced people. And I'm drinking the Kool-Aid right now because I'm getting a more positive feeling about the direction that this thing is headed just from the two of them alone, the limited stuff we've seen so far.
Yeah, I mean, do you want to kind of start going into their background, or do you want to?
Let's start with their deals. The thing that really sticks out with these deals is that it's not a John Gruden, 10-year deal where it's just he's John Gruden, we got to give him whatever he wants. But they have a long leash, it looks like here, and they're going to need time to make this thing work. So they kind of need to have the first couple of years be a mulligan almost. So these deals might sound like a long time on paper when you read it, but I think they make sense for the spot that we're in, knowing that, hey, we're going to have to gut this thing and we're going to have to start from ground zero. The first 2 years are going to be pretty painful. So let's see what kind of flashes we can find with them early on and build on it.
Mm-hmm. I don't know, this is kind of negative thinking, but what year do we start to bring out the pitchforks?
3.
3?
Yeah, 3. Because the first 2 years we're going to assume are going to be a Jared Goff trial run and rebuilding a defense, a semblance of a defense, and just getting as many lottery tickets to the draft as we can, which Brad Holmes has done a phenomenal job of so far. Really good. But we need time for those younger players they draft to have some reps and develop, and they can bring in their players that they choose. They're going to need at least 2 years for that. So if you're not seeing any progress after 3, then I think that's when the pitchforks come out. And think about it this way. The pitchforks were coming out for Matt Patricia after year 1 because he was brought in and told us that he was going to be he's the next step on an already good team.
Yeah, that's fair.
Now this situation, and he made it 3 years. Yeah. Patricia and Quinn made it 5, and Patricia made
Quinn
3.
made it 5. Yeah, Patricia made it 3.
So they had that much time when they ruined everything.
Yeah.
These guys are going in the basement level.
Yeah.
So you got to at least give them 3.
Yeah.
At least.
So what are your expectations for year 3? How many wins?
I think that's too hard to predict right now.
Yeah.
In theory, we should be a 9-7 8-8.
Okay, I was going
at
to say
least.
my bar is 8 wins in year 3.
That should be the basement where we should be at.
And to cut them some slack, I'll even say I wouldn't mind 7. I don't want 6. 6 is like my cutoff. I think 7 is like a gray area where I'm like, okay, they can come back for another year. 8 is like, okay, I think there's something cooking.
Is it reasonable to say our baseline for next year is 2 wins?
Yeah,
and every year
absolutely.
we double it.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I see the roadmap here. So those are their contracts. A little bit about their backgrounds. I know that Dan Campbell, his main coaching experience kind of sample size is from when he was the interim head coach of the Miami Dolphins the year that they fired Joe Philbin during the season. And they actually won some games for him. They rallied behind him, and he seems like a very rah-rah, high energy, I'm going to have my guys play for me, and they seem like they like him a lot. There's been a lot of positive quotes to come out about him from former players that you got a good guy. So
it's also, initial reaction was interesting because a lot of people picked Robert Saleh. Did I pronounce his last name?
Yes. Yep.
A lot of people picked him to be the next one.
Right.
And, reports came out that he didn't have a good interview. He then goes on to sign with the Jets. So a lot of people were looking forward to him. He had a phenomenal career as a defensive coordinator in San Francisco. And I don't think a lot of people pegged Dan Campbell to be named the next head coach.
I don't think at the start of the process he was even a name anyone was talking about.
Yeah.
And I think that his time in New Orleans working under Sean Payton as a tight ends coach, I think that plus the stint he had in Miami, I think bolstered his name maybe in league circles. And it just wasn't something that the public was kind of like privy to.
Keeping his eye on him, yeah.
Right. So Robert Saleh seemed like it was going to happen inevitably. We were even talking about during the season, we were already campaigning for him. So even local state government people were petitioned. They wrote a letter to the Lions saying, would you please consider bringing Robert Saleh here? So that seemed like the direction that they were going to go. But Sheila Ford Hamp put together a bit of a committee. Again, this whole sort of collaborative approach to building this new regime, and that's the name they came away with, and they got a lot of solid football minds in that committee now. So I do trust it.
The other shocking aspect of the hiring was, I think a lot of people were expecting either new head coach, experienced GM, or experienced head coach, new GM.
Considering what we just came off of.
And they went with the surprising aspect of new GM, new head coach. And that kind of, segues into the hiring of Brad Holmes, who had no GM experience and was, I think, a draft evaluator for the Rams.
Yeah, they're in their scouting department. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was another very shocking hire. But initially, it kind of leaves not a great taste in your mouth, kind of like, I don't know. But then, you kind of sit back and you start to realize hindsight's 2020. He's made some good moves so far. But, you look at his credibility, the guy drafted a lot of the Rams players that are on that team right now. And
he also was a big voice in why they drafted Jared Goff back in the day.
Well, yeah, and that's
Brad Holmes.
Goff's had some good seasons. Goff's had some bad seasons.
Okay, so Dan Campbell, I think the jury's out. We've seen some stuff that is good, and he's said some interesting things, and his energy's been probably the best aspect of him coming here. However, I think that Brad Holmes, you can already evaluate and say that he is doing a very good job as our new GM.
He's had some good steps. So some very positive steps.
I really, truly feel like at this point, it's still very early in his tenure, but he has done everything the right way so far. He traded Matthew Stafford and got 2 first-round picks and a starting quarterback in exchange. He understands where we're at in the rebuild process very clearly. And I think he had to have pitched that to ownership to even get in the door.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that we're already coming into this next draft with more capital and a clear game plan, and he's playing the game the right way, as they say, when it comes to playing the quarterback game. Last year with Bob Quinn, we had the number 3 overall pick, and it was clear as day we're not taking a quarterback. So no one called us to try and trade for the pick.
And as much as the media was pushing it,
yeah,
nobody believed it.
Right. And this time, Brad Holmes, he just got his guy in Jared Goff, and personally, I think that's where they're going to roll the dice with this next year at least. He's just at Trey Lance's pro day, like the other day.
He said we're not ruling out a quarterback.
He's doing everything the right way so far. He's been cutting players with bad contracts right now, realizing that we need to gut this thing, and I am in love with every move that he's made. I'm drinking the Kool-Aid hard on him. Dan Campbell, we'll see. Jury's out. I like the guy, and I like the energy, but we'll see. This is going to be a bad team. So
yeah. Obviously, you're referring to the cuts that were made this past week with Justin Coleman and Jesse James, right? That's his name.
Yeah, Coleman and Jesse James.
Yeah, I don't know why I had a double take on Jesse James, but
and our boy Christian Jones.
And Christian Jones. Holy shit! You make that cut. That was the first cut, and that shows Brad Holmes knows what he's doing.
Yep.
Because that was a horrendous deal.
Yeah. Horrible
extension.
Chase Daniels reportedly on the block, and they tried to see if they could get anything, but he'll probably just get the axe, I think.
Probably. Justin Coleman, super unfortunate, I think. When he came in, he was regarded as the top slot cornerback in the league. And for that first year, he was a difference maker, in my opinion. He was good. And then, unfortunately, injuries took its toll. He did not have a good season when he was on the field this past year.
No one did. No one did on the defense.
Yeah, nobody really did. So he goes, which looking at it, the contract was huge. He was one of the top paid cornerbacks in the league. And then the cutting of Trufant as well, getting rid of him is also a sign, the guy can't stay healthy. It seems like a good cut. And on top of that, Jesse James, who at the time, the signing didn't make any sense once we drafted TJ Hawkinson.
Correct. I was going to say, when we did sign him,
it was like, okay.
We have a tight end. Good.
Yeah. And then we drafted TJ Hawkinson 8th overall. So then it was like, why in God's name are we paying Jesse James as much as we are when we just took a tight end 8th overall?
Jesse James was an absolutely horrible signing.
Yeah.
And nothing against the guy. And he actually flashed a bit when he was in Pittsburgh. But
I don't think he's a bad player.
I don't either. But like you're saying, it made no sense. We drafted a tight end in the top 10. That's going to be the guy you rally around. And I'm sure from Jesse James' perspective, he's probably like, what the hell?
Yeah.
I just signed here for 3 years, and you draft a guy in the top 10 to basically one-up me.
Yeah.
Like, why am I even here? And he was basically relegated to a blocking tight end his first year. He got a little bit more involved in the passing game last year, but just a horrible signing.
And to the point that the Lions' offensive, game plan, it didn't involve the tight end. It really hasn't. Like last year, Hawk got way more involved, and it showed that he can be, tight end number 1 and a good one. But before that, like, they just didn't know how to use tight ends. Like, they could not get them involved in the passing game. And so that was just such a stupid signing. So good on Brad Holmes for cutting him as well. And he'll probably go on to play at another team and make somewhat of a difference, hopefully be the tight end 1. If not, that's horrible because we basically just took that guy's career and put it in the dump.
The thing that is really like poignant already in this next era of Lions football, as I was saying, with the collaborative kind of feel of it, is that the moves that they've been making so far when it comes to dealing Stafford, which we're going to touch on in next week's show a little bit more. But when it comes to that move, which was arguably the biggest trade in franchise history, and cutting these guys that were bad contracts and making, letting Kenny Galladay walk away, even though he's a fan favorite, doing these kind of things, these are not moves that the Lions have traditionally made as a franchise. They usually just say, hey, we got to get asses in the seats. Let's just put the best team in front of Stafford that we can and make a run and see what we can do. This is the first time since I've been a fan that I've seen them actually step back, say, hey, we're in a really bad spot. Let's just clean it up and let's just start over. And I've very rarely seen everyone kind of aligned on the same page. So it's really refreshing to see. And it's a really, right now, we haven't played a single game.
Yeah.
So it's all sunshine and roses right now. It's going to be a tough next year or two. And who knows onward. But
let's pivot over to Dan Campbell and the moves that he's made. And by that, we mean
his staff,
the staff that he brought in. So I think two notable ones right out the gate were Deuce Staley, the running backs head coach, who I had never heard of personally, but from what I've gathered, he was the running backs coach for the Philadelphia Eagles and is a very renowned running backs coach.
Reportedly, they were hot to trot to try and keep him in Philly, and they were really trying to not let him walk, and the Lions somehow scooped him up. So I'm kind of in the same boat as you. I know the name has some flair to it in the league. I don't really know a lot about the dude, but when you think of Philly, you think of at least a solid running game most years. I mean, right now their backfield's kind of a question mark, but
huge.
Yeah, they're always pretty solid.
Yeah. So that one was a good one.
For Swift, I like it a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. Like our running back core right now, obviously DeAndre Swift is great. Kerryon has shown in previous years that he can do something, maybe not at the same level as Swift, but if he can be a good RB2, that's phenomenal. Defensive side, one notable signing that I thought was awesome, and I'm so excited for it. The Bears linebacker coach.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but again, you look at what that guy's built.
Roquan Smith, Khalil Mack,
they have talent and they know how to use it there. And so you obviously can point to that guy as to why that linebacking core is so good. And praise be the Lord, maybe we can start to turn things around with our linebacking core and just turn it into not as big of a joke.
This is only episode 2 of the show, but I've already noticed how hot and heavy you are to get good linebackers on this team.
I really want them to address the linebacking core. That is first and foremost on my list.
What do you think about the offensive and defensive coordinator hires so far? We have Anthony Lynn as the offensive coordinator, who was previously just last year the head coach of the LA Chargers, and at defensive coordinator we have Aaron Glenn, who is I believe he's the secondary coach from the Saints coming over, who has a connection to Dan Campbell.
Yeah. So I like Anthony Lynn. I really do. I think that was a good hire. That offense, he came across as somebody who could call a good game, but when it came to finishing and
dagger time,
certain head coaching things, he didn't really get it. So I think that is a great hire. I think that he will be able to call a good game. The other side, coming off the Quintricia era, hiring somebody that you're from the team that you're coming from isn't extremely appealing, but at the same time, totally two different areas.
But I think in today's NFL, or even before we were fans, I think that's kind of common.
It probably is.
I think us doing the whole New England North thing was a bit overkill. Not a bit. It was overkill. But whenever you start a new regime, especially if it's guys like Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes who are fresh faces in this, they're going to go and get guys who they're comfortable with and they've worked with before.
Yeah.
And it makes sense if they can land those people to put them there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, it doesn't worry me too much. Obviously, when you read it on paper, like right away, you're like, oh, shit, here we go again. But taking a step back and reevaluating the signing, I don't hate it. The Saints DBs have been good over the past couple of years. I think that's a good signing. I believe Antoine Randall L is our wide receivers coach. Guy who's extremely experienced, had a good career in the NFL. He's young. So I think that's a great signing. I think that the staff that
he might have to suit up and come play. Actually, I know Dan Campbell made that joke on the Pat McAfee show, but yeah, Antoine might actually have to come and play some snaps.
So I think that they're putting together a young staff, but I'm excited for that. I think that the staff that they're putting around them is going to be really good.
It's the sexiest offseason signing of staff that I've ever witnessed as a Lions fan from that perspective. Yeah. And also, they made some really interesting front office additions as well.
It's a big one, and you and I are so big on this guy, and I am so unbelievably happy they brought him in, John Dorsey.
I remember we were talking,
really pulling for him to become GM.
Right. We were talking about it. We were headed to the sports book one afternoon, and we were just talking about Lions stuff. And I remembered that I was like, hey, man, my dream when this thing's over is just bring John Dorsey in as the GM, and let's get Robert Saleh, and let's fly. Those two are going to be studs. Because John Dorsey has made moves to get Odell Beckham, Baker Mayfield, Patrick Mahomes. He's got a solid.
For people who don't know, he's basically drafted the entire Chiefs team and then left and then went to go build out the Browns team that is now a playoff contender, possible Super Bowl contender.
So it's not all sunshine and rainbows. Obviously, there's a reason that he was available for hire. And, there's a reason that it didn't work out with those teams. Apparently, sometimes he's been kind of hard to work with, but hey, they're putting guys there who are experienced and they've done good things in the NFL. And in such an important time where we are going to have to draft the next QB of the future if Jared Goff doesn't work out, or we're going to, regardless, just have to keep adding young talent through the draft. Mm-hmm. What a bonus it is to have a great evaluator of talent like that.
I mean, I just think it's so sensational. I'm so unbelievably happy about that. John Dorsey kind of, in similar aspect, reminds me of Anthony Lynn, where he did a lot of things right, but just a couple of things wrong.
Just enough to lose his job.
Just enough to lose his job. So, like in referencing his time at Cleveland, one of the biggest, just absolutely boneheaded moves was Hugh Jackson.
Right.
And I think that led to him, kind of getting the can out of Cleveland. But before he did, he put together a good team.
Well, sorry. I think Hugh Jackson was a boneheaded decision, but I think the one that got him can out of Cleveland was Freddie Kitchens.
Freddie Kitchens, absolutely. So, I mean, that was his so stupid.
And in hindsight, you can kind of understand the decision because Freddie Kitchens just came in as the OC when he had a nice year, had a nice rapport with Baker, and Baker had some input on it. So, I understand the move. Let's not be revisionist history and say that it was so stupid he shouldn't have done that. No, for the time, it made some sense.
So, although, to counterpoint, the interim coach at that time was Greg Williams, and they were much better under Greg Williams.
Well, he's notoriously dreadful to work with. So the other front office
results.
Yeah, true. Well, except for last year when he was on the Jets defense.
But I mean, come on.
The other front office piece that I just wanted to touch on, and maybe we can close it out after this, is just I did want to talk about Chris Spielman.
Yeah.
So he comes from the booth to join the Lions front office as kind of like an executive assistant kind of role.
Yeah,
it's kind of vague.
I can't remember his official
title.
Title.
It's kind of vague, but in a time where we did not have Brad Holmes hired yet, we did not have Dan Campbell hired yet, and the staff is pretty bare bones. For a time, it was literally just Sheila Ford Hamp, Rod Wood running the show.
Yeah.
And Bevel, right. So they said, okay, well, we need, despite Rod Football Wood, whatever his name is, we need someone who actually understands football
organizations
to come in and run this thing. And Spielman is infamously a big Lions, connection and fan.
One of the best Lions players of all time.
And also his brother, Rick Spielman, general manager of the Minnesota Vikings. So he understands how front office works. Mm-hmm. They bring him in, and that was the first offseason move where it was noticeable that, they're trying something a little different.
And here. I think they did the same thing with Barry.
They had him as part of this committee to find their GM and head coach. So I've said it before, but all these moves are new and promising, and I think the right way to go about the situation. It's going to be really tough the next couple of years to watch this thing happen in real time, but I mean, can you just imagine one day if we're talking about, man, the Lions are a shoe-in for the playoffs. Can they go win a playoff game on the road? Like, can they get to the NFC title game? I mean, imagine if we're having these conversations in a couple of years. Like, these are the moves that smart teams are making. So it's good to see them kind of start to go down this path.
Yeah, right now. We're both chugging Kool-Aid, so we have to, kind of take the glass away from our lips every once in a while.
I know, but like
not drink the entire glass quite yet.
I know. But that's what we want to build for.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
the whole point of all this. It's enough mediocrity. It's enough being a bad team.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do it different. And so far they're doing that. So that is why I'm drinking Kool-Aid.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. The only thing now the front office can do that would really make a difference, just pay Calvin his money.
Actually,
get that guy as an ally.
Well, they started sweetening up to him when he got this Hall of Fame nod.
Of course.
So I could actually see that incoming within the next year or two.
Let's really hope. I would love to see a game where Calvin returns.
Make it happen, Sheila.
Yeah, please.